Daf Samach Aleph Amid Beis will begin Samach Aleph Amid Aleph, the Mishnah towards the bottom. Zok the Mishnah, Anshe Ir Gedoyle Mahalchen as Kol Ir Ketan. The residents of a large city can walk the entire small city, meaning the small city that's nearby to them, that's within 140, was more than 141 and 2/3 amas away. It's close by, but it's more than 141 and 2/3 amas away. So therefore, we don't merge the two cities together. They're not considered merged together, at least according to one Mandomer, that we don't merge them together if they're more than 141 amas and 2/3. If they're within that, it's considered a large city. So they're close together, but they're separated by 70 and a third amas on each side. So they're more than 141 and 2/3 amas away. Nevertheless, we can consider each city as being only Dalet amas, and therefore he has the Alpaim Amma. The Tchum is measured from the outskirts of the city. And Vanshir Katana Malchum is called Gedoyla. And the Anshir Katana can similarly walk the whole large city. The whole large city for them is considered to be only Dalet amas, and you measure the Alpaim Amma of the Tchum from the perimeter of the city. So this is the Girsa, the version that we had according to Rav Dimi that we learned previously. So now the Mishnah explains. If someone was a resident in a large town, and he placed his Erev in a small city, so he wasn't even physically Shavis in the small city. He only placed his Erev there, but he was a resident on the onset of Shabbos. He was in the large city. So in also it's a Ruv Ber Katana, or Ber Katana and also it's a Ruv Ber Gedoyl, or the vice versa. He was a resident of the small town, and he put the Erev, he placed it in the large town. Nevertheless, in both cases, we consider his Malkam Shvisa to be the place where he placed his Erev. So therefore, Mahalchas Kula V'chutzul Alpaim Amma. So the entire town is considered like Dalet amas, and he measures his Alpaim Amma from the outskirts of the city. But Rabbi Kiva, he says, no. Ein lo ela mimalkam yeruva Alpaim Amma. You have to measure the Alpaim Amma from the actual place of the Erev. Where do we say that the entire town is considered like Dalet amas, and you measure the 2,000 amas from the city limits? That's where he's actually physically Shavis in the city. But if he only places an Erev there, and he himself personally is not there, then you have to measure the Alpaim Amma from the place of the Erev. So he put it in the house, you measure it from the place where he put it into. From that place, not from the city limits. So Enel Malkam Eruva Alpaim Amma, he has to measure the Alpaim Amma from the actual place of the Erev. Amar Lam Rabbi Kiva sent to the Chachamim, Iatem Moedim, don't you agree that Iatem Moedim, don't you agree with him that if you put the Erev in a cave, that you put on She'ein Loi Elam Malkam Eruva Alpaim Amma, that you measure from the place of the cave, not from the perimeter of the cave? The answer, yes, but a Mosai Bisman Shein Ba Diurim. That's only when there are no inhabitants of the cave. Aval Yesh Ba Diurim, if there are, Mahalchas Kula V'chutzul Alpaim Amma. But if there are, then you measure from the perimeter. Where is it that you only measure from the actual place? That's when there's no residents. But if there are, that's considered all one dwelling. It's all considered all one Dalet amas, and you measure from the perimeter. Nimsa kal teicha me'al gava. So it comes out that there's a kula, it's more lenient, that teicha, the interior, from al gava. If you put the Erev, according to the Chum, in the interior, then if you put it in the interior of the cave, then it's considered all like Dalet amas. You measure the Alpaim Amma from the perimeter. If you put it on top, well, then you can't consider it all to be your Malkam Shvisa. You put it on top, you measure over there from the actual place of the Erev. And however, if a person puts the Tchum outside the city, and he measures the Alpaim Amma is 2,000 amas, and you measure Shafilu Seif Midosa Kala B'Mara, then you end it wherever it is, even if it comes in the Hafil Medosa Kala Bamar, even if it measures, it ends in the middle of the cave, that's where it ends. Where do we say that the cave is all considered like Dalet Amis? When that is when you put the Eruv in the cave. But if you put the Eruv elsewhere, you put it outside and you're measuring Alpine Mama, and you come, it ends in the middle of the cave, that's where it ends. You don't consider the whole cave in that case as Dalet Amas. If you put the Eruv in the cave, the entire cave is considered Dalet Amas. You measure Alpine in each direction. If you have the Eruv outside, you're measuring Alpine. The 2,000 Amas ends in the cave, wherever it ends, it ends. We can't consider the entire cave to be 2,000 Amas. Zok the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Shavas Be'ir Chareva. If a person, he personally was in a city that has no inhabitants, according to the Rabbanan, even though there are no residents or no inhabitants in the city, but if he is Shaivas over there, he himself is Shaivas over there, it's all considered like Dalet Amas. He measures his 2,000 Amas from the perimeter. But if he himself was not there, he personally himself didn't make Shabbos over there. He wasn't there on the onset of Shabbos. He only placed an Eruv over there. Then we say, then he only has 2,000 Amas from the actual place of the Eruv. But Rabbi Elazar says, no, there's no difference. It makes no difference whether he personally was there or he put an Eruv over there. And it makes no difference whether there's inhabitants or there aren't inhabitants. You consider the entire cave or the entire town as Dalet Amas. You measure from the perimeter. So ask a kasha on Rabbi Elazar. Amar Lam Rabbi Kiva. We learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Kiva says, aren't you mighty to me that if he was not personally in the mar, if he is nice as a ruva in a mar, in a cave, that you measure the alpaim ama not from the perimeter but from the actual place. They said yes, but I mosab is mine shame but the urim. That's only if there's no inhabitants. So that's what we do. But so therefore we say there you measure from the actual place. So we see don't we see over here that if there aren't residents, they do agree with Rabbi Akiva that you don't treat the entire cave as Dalet Amas, you measure from the actual spot of the Eruv. Now, Rabbi Elazar understands it differently. He answers, Ma'ain Badiyurin, Eina Re'uya Ladira. It doesn't make a difference if they're actual inhabitants or not. If it's fit for residents, if you can live over there, then we treat it as a residence, whether there are people there or not. And there you consider the entire town or cave as Dalet Amas, you measure from the perimeter. What does it mean over here that Be'ein Bod Yeruin means it's not fit for the Yurim? It's going to collapse. That people can't live over there. That's where the Rabbanan are Maida, that you measure from the actual place of the Eruv and not from the perimeter, because it's not considered a one residence, because it's not fit to live over there. That's how Rabbi Elazar understands it. Tashma, let's bring Ryan from the following. Tashma, let's Hakasha on Rabbi Elazar. It says Shavas Be'ir. If he was Shavas Be'ir, he made Shabbos in a city. Even if it was large, like the city Antochi. Bimar, or in a cave. Even if it was large, as the cave that Tzidkiyahu Melech Yehuda had. They made a tunnel in a cave to escape when they were besieging the surrounding Yerushalayim. The Bavel were surrounding them at the time of the Churban. So that was a very large cave. Nevertheless, Mahalach Eskula v'chutzla alpaim amma. You measure from the perimeter. You treat the entire huge area as Dalet Amas. So what do we see over here? Ketani ir dumya damar. Now it gives the two examples, so it must be that they're similar to each other. So it says the city, dumya to the mara, city similar to the cave. Ma mara chareva, the cave does not have inhabitants. People don't live in the cave. So af ir chareva. and therefore the city also we're talking without inhabitants. And what does it say? It says Vishavas. Vishavas. Where do we consider it as Dalet Amas? Where do we say that you measure from the perimeter? Only if it's Shavas, only if he personally made Shabbos. He was there on the onset of Shabbos. Avalei niach loy. So, but hey niach loy, if you only place the Eruv there, we would not say that. There you would have to measure from the actual place of the Eruv. Now, so isn't that saying that we're talking in a case where there are no inhabitants, and nevertheless, we only treat the area as Dalet Amas if he's Shavas. So, money. Who is this going on? Rabbi Kiva. If you say it's the sheet of Rabbi Kiva, my area, Chareva. Well, what difference does it make if it's desolate or not desolate? Afilo Yeshiva Nami. According to Rabbi Kiva, whether there are residents or inhabitants in the city or the cave, it makes no difference. Rabbi Kiva says you have to be personally Shavas in order to say we treat the city or the cave as Dalet Amas. In order to say that we measure from the perimeter, it's only if he was there personally on the onset of Shabbos. It makes no difference whether it's Chareva or not. Elalav Rabbanan. Must be that it's going according to the sheet of the Rabbanan. The time of the Shavas in. Now, why do we say you measure from the perimeter? It's only because Shavas. Aval niach loy. But if you only placed the Eruv there, but he himself personally was not there, you would not say it. So doesn't this show you that it's not like Rabbi Elazar? Gemara says no. Rabbi Elazar would learn it the following. Don't say we compare the city to the Mara. Yes, we compare the two, but it's not the city that's similar to the Mara. We're talking where the cave is similar to the city. Ma'ir Yeshiva, just like a city, it has inhabitants. Afmara Yeshiva, we're talking in a cave that it has inhabitants. And there we say that it has inhabitants. Notwithstanding the fact that it has inhabitants, you have to have Yeshiva. Placing the Eruv is not enough. You have to physically be there on the onset of Shabbos. Rabbi Kivi, the Omar, Ein Lami Makam Eruv Pai Mama. That he only has from the place of the Eruv Pai Mama, but of Shabbos Maida. But if he personally was there, he's Maida. No, we're talking over here, the case we're talking over here, that the Ma'ara is similar to the ear, it's similar to the city, and even though there are inhabitants, but Rabbi Kiva holds, you still can only treat the city or the cave like Alpayim Amma. You can only measure from the perimeter if it's Shavas, if you were personally there on the onset of Shabbos. So this is going according to Rabbi Kiva. So you have no kasha according to Rabbi Elazar. Well, it says like the cave of Tzidkiyahu. Now, there were residents over there. People didn't live there. That was an escape tunnel. That over there, they didn't have inhabitants. And therefore, how can you say that the cave is similar to the city? We're talking about a cave that doesn't have inhabitants. More answers, Kimara Tzidkiyahu v'loy Kimara Tzidkiyahu. It's similar, but not completely similar. Kimara Tzidkiyahu Gedolah. The comparison to the Mara of Tzidkiyahu, it's not completely similar to the cave of Tzidkiyahu. It's only brought that as an example to show that we're talking about a very large cave. That's the point of it. That even if it's a city that's Gedolah Kantoich, even if it's a cave that's large like the cave of Tzidkiyahu was very large, but the analogy is not complete because it's not completely similar. Because over there it didn't have inhabitants, but what we're talking over here is where it did have inhabitants. So therefore he maintains that what we're discussing over here is a city or a cave that's very large, but it's a case that it has inhabitants, and nevertheless you only measure from the perimeter if you were there physically. The onset of Shabbos was the sheet of Rabbi Kiva. Mar Yehuda Ashchino Levnei Mavrachta. Mar Yehuda encountered the people of Mavrachta. The Kamoisfe Eruvin Beiknisha the Beaguva, and they put their Eruv, they placed the Eruv in the shul, in the place of Aguva. So they put the Eruv there. As Rashi explains, the shul was within the tchum of the city, but it was outside the city, and they placed the tchum there. Amar lahu, Mar Yehuda said to them, Govu beit tvei, put it further in, put it further deeper in, ki hech so that you'll have a a larger area, a greater distance to travel, because obviously he was holding like Rabbi Akiva, and therefore you measure the Alpine Mama from the actual place of the Erev. So he said put it deeper in the shul, because you'll have to measure not from the perimeter of the shul, but from the actual place of the Erev, and put it further in, so you'll have that much more to walk in that direction. Amalei Rabba Rabba Sem Palgo, Yerba Machlekes, Be'ervin Loichash Lada Rabbi Akiva. We don't pass like Rabbi Akiva. We're not machmer like Rabbi Akiva, and therefore that's not the halach. So it doesn't matter how deep into the shul it is, you measure from the perimeter. So it makes no difference. Hadar Ketzer Ma'arvin, Hadar Ketzer Ma'arvin, Hadar Ketzer Ma'arvin. Hadar ima akum b'chatzer, oy mishe eino moida be'erev, harei ze oyser lov.